and investors. You are tuned in to Drug Development Disco, the LinkedIn Live series that explores the vibrant intersection of science, commerce, and capital. I'm your host, Nick Mitchell, BioCentury's head of product. I'm thrilled to be joined by my co-host, Matt Krebs. Matt has over 20 years of experience, dedicating his career to helping biotech founders identify the people, the knowledge, and the capital they need to bring innovative drugs to market. As BioCentury's growth account team manager, Matt ensures our discussions stay focused on real-world challenges and opportunities that biotech investors and innovators care about. If you're looking for more industry perspective, Matt has his own series that he records and releases weekly. Matt's next session up is where he's going to help biotech founders and leaders identify the data they need to build market trend awareness and set strategic priorities. Matt, we're really looking forward to your next session.
Same here.
Okay, Matt, because this is our first show, I want to take a minute and maybe talk a little bit about what was the reasoning behind the development of this LinkedIn Live series and talk about the target audience that we're hoping to connect with.
Thank you, Nick. I'm going to start by answering that with a story. Sometimes I make short stories long. I'm going to try and make this a short story short. So I was at our East-West Biopharma Summit this year in spring in Singapore. That's our BioCentury conference. And there was a CEO, co-founder from San Francisco I recognized. And from across the hall, I heard, "Hey, Matt." And man, the tone of that, I was like, "Oh man, what did I screw up? What did I do wrong?" That's just my personality. But they came over and they shook my hand. They said, "Thank you." I was like, relieved, but I'm intrigued. Thank you. And thank you for what? They just recently landed a deal. And that deal came in part from the data analysis and networking provided from BioCentury. So that's a home run for me. That's a home run for them. If you ask me what this is all about, that's what this show's about. That's what, that's the intended audience. That's what I'm hoping to achieve. Answer your question a little more directly. We're launching this drug development disco to create a platform where biotech innovators and investors can come together. The mission is kind of simple: bridge that gap between science and business. I love that, like bridge that gap between science and business. It's a kind of simple way for a complex thing that we do. And basically what that boils down to is foster a community where knowledge, experience, innovation are all shared to drive the next wave of breakthroughs in biotech. That's a mouthful, Nick, but that's what I got for you.
Thanks, Matt. No surprise here. That is a mission that I also love. And so we're really excited to kick this series off, and we hope that our audience is too. I think we have a really good topic to launch the series. Given the current market conditions, I mean, of course, drug discovery and development is a long process and it's an expensive one. And the current market cash is always a concern, but a lot of people are turning to out licensing as a means of identifying or gathering the funds that they need to keep innovating and to keep developing. So we were kind of thinking that for the first session, we could spend a little bit of time talking about taking a data-driven approach to identifying potential licensees for products or assets that are in your portfolio. Do you think this is a good topic that is likely to resonate with our audience?
Absolutely. Just like you said, in today's market, out licensing can be a lifeline. So our audience is definitely looking for practical and, like you said, data-driven strategies to navigate these choppy waters, these tough times, a lot of different ways to say it. And, finding the right partners, AKA licensees, is mission critical, not just to survive, but to thrive. And I had a company recently, another story. They were on the phone. They were going to raise a Series B. Plans changed. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. They didn't have, the funding, and they had "Staying Alive" blasting in the background. Didn't mean to have that story for the disco theme, but hey, it's there, and they're having fun, but they're looking for out licensing opportunities, right? That's just the battle hardened people we work with. So I'm excited to dive into this topic and share insights that can make a real difference for the viewers.
Yeah, we get it. It's definitely about staying alive. So I love that theme. And as you said, it certainly ties in with our drug development disco. Um, as we think about this a little bit more focused, if I'm a biotech founder or CEO, how do I even begin this process of thinking about the out licensing process and who a good partner might be for licensing one of my assets?
Great question. And a couple of things come to mind when speaking to biotech leaders and the folks that support them who are planning to out-license an asset, right? So first, often people are looking for a partner with a proven track record of development. That proven track record of development is and commercializing something, and that kind of peer group setting that they do is going to be by indication, modality, target, yada yada. There's a list of things that they have in mind, and they stress the need usually to evaluate a potential partner's financial stability. Another thing that comes up would be like R&D capabilities. They need the relevant comps for the data analysis for upfronts, milestones, royalties. That's all part of the equation. So that's the first thing I think of. Second, they highlight the significance of a partner's network and market reach. There's a lot of worry about financial terms not being as good as they hoped. So there's a balancing act. On one hand, you need to secure immediate funding, and I should say immediate in quotes. That's a timeline that's different for everyone. If the person I'm talking to says it's immediate, man, it's immediate for me. That's how I define immediate. So that's one hand. On the other hand, they want to ensure the asset reaches its full potential with the right partner.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of good, things there, and certainly giving us a broad view of like what's important. I really wanted to hone in on one of the things that you said, which was early on, and that is that a proven track record of developing similar assets, whether they were in-licensed or originated with that company, is a really important factor. You talked about some of the specifics in terms of modalities and lead indications. And you start getting into some pretty detailed data about the drug development process. And if I'm, someone who's looking for this doesn't seem like necessarily an easy task. So how does one go about finding this kind of data?
Yeah, that's right, Nick. So identifying companies with a proven track record, developing similar products is not just crucial, but it's difficult, right? And
Yeah.
it can be perceived to be difficult, right? So, but this means defining the peer group for your analysis first, right? Well, often, right? That's one of the first things. And so while some of this data is going to be available publicly, folks can spend countless hours just scouring company websites, going down that Google rabbit hole that they get lost in. Everyone's been there. They feel that pain. Reviewing pipeline pages and still wondering if the information they have is up to date, accurate. Are they discerning it, correctly? Who owns what projects? You mentioned this, AKA determining what's in license versus, an originated project. It's not always transparent on a company website. It could be a nightmare data to go through. So this is where having a tool like BioCentury's Drug Discovery and Development Database, the BCIQ database, becomes incredibly valuable. We take what could take oodles and oodles of wasted days of research can be accomplished in just hours. And my goal is to enable folks to take that lengthy process with lots of wasted time and energy and turn that into a more efficient process.
Yeah, right on. I mean, certainly going out and extracting that data, putting it into your own database and keeping track of it and making sure it's updated seems like something that most innovators don't have time for, and neither do investors necessarily. The process you've outlined using BCIQ, of course, sounds really exciting and far more efficient. I'm wondering if you mind taking a few moments to walk the audience through what processing or carrying out this use case might look like with BioCentury's BCIQ.
Nick, I thought you'd never ask. So let's dive right in head first. So first, Nick, can you see my screen?
I can.
All right, great. So what I'm sharing is the BioCentury BCIQ database. And I thought I would start by this, define the peer group. And to do that, we'll look at like proven track record. So like that's the premise of like the goal. And then, the premise of I see the world through the eyes of a CEO and their teams of what company am I working with? Let's pick an autoimmune inflammation company that has a bispecific ADC or something in that kind of space
Okay.
at an early stage. Very typical use case.
All right.
Autoimmune inflammation, the modality, early stage. That early stage part is really kind of key to these comps.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is this stage at signing. So that R&D, R&D and IND and phase one that you saw on the screen. I'm going to expand that to this stage at signing. This is really critical. This is where, I've heard people come to me and say, this is my pain relief medicine for what was the sticky point when I was lost on Google. I needed the real comps at the stage at signing for the deals.
Yeah,
Anything you
that
want to
makes
add to that, or is that
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's one thing to have an understanding of where an asset is now, as well as like what a potential valuation might be. But the time of the deal data, it's not surprising that that information is a little bit harder to find on the web or to at least keep track of.
harder to find and harder to trust? And it's a trust but verify situation that everyone's in. So um, we're uh, we're going to see what that means in a second, and absolutely. So now we've set the parameters. Now let's look at the data. So the data driven approach. So what does the data tell us on who's done some deals? So you'll see deals for us in this deals database are partnerships and M&A and biobucks, right? So those are the things people are looking for. 37 of the 114 deals have biobucks. That means you will have some very clear upfront, milestone total valuations of a deal, total values of a deal. But then the other deals are equally important. How are they structured? What licensed territories involved? What was the target involved? So even if the biobucks aren't there, they are critical to everyone's decision making.
And getting
And
that
then things
level,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry, Matt. I'm just saying, getting that level of detail kind of gives you greater confidence that the peer group or the benchmarking that you're doing is at the highest possible level of resolution.
Absolutely. And to do that, you need to go a level deeper. So you'll see top deal makers, and not surprisingly, J&J, some of the bigger cap companies are going to be on the top. Maybe there's companies you didn't have in mind, like an Argenic. So this is starting to help you fill your peer group setting. And then to your point, looking at the data itself. So who structured what deal with some granularity? And each one of these deals will have a deal profile in BCIQ to give you that extra layer of deal, components. And then the original source docs, trust but verify. We include the press releases, sometimes the SEC documents, like where did we get the information from? And that's what I've heard. That's also a time saver because you don't have to go from this system to another.
Not only that, in the age of AI, of course, it's not enough when we're making decisions like this to simply have an answer. We absolutely want to be able to verify that with source or origin documentation. So definitely valuable.
Appreciate that. And then one other thing to add to this slide, even though that's not a part of the exercise today, I know it's a use case it just goes in tandem. I see a trend line, and I use this in my roadshow as the CEO when I talk to investors. Like there's a there here, there's a there, and this helps paint the picture. That way. So it's twofold. Let's fast forward and say, like, all right, cool. We've made our peer group. I've identified some companies. I have some targets. So what am I going to do next? I'm going to go look at everything in their pipeline. I'm going to jump to their what we call our products view, the pipeline landscaping view, and just because we did our homework, let's fast forward. So what this is now is I've identified some peers, and let's say my head of BD and some other people, head of corporate strategic planning, they said I need to add a couple more to your list. So they go ahead and they add them. So group effort. And now I've got my 9-10 companies that I want to see what are they doing in autoimmune and inflammation holistically.
Okay.
By what phase? And I've just looked at biologics. So now I've expanded not just ADCs and bispecifics, but expanded it out. I wanted to see the whole kind of picture. And what I've heard is that this ability to, and heard from the end users, this ability to discern very quickly partnered versus unpartnered projects in this filter set. Very useful, very, mission critical to their ability to discern the data, what's in there. 17 unpartnered products in phase 1, 16, just to give you a sample in the phase 1. The other thing that I've seen, the end user comes to me and says, I really want to just look at autoimmune sometimes. I don't want the inflammation part right now. We need to separate them out. How does that break down by indication, and how many projects are going in each indication in this filter set? And all of this is to say it's headed towards that end goal of proven track record. Does the asset match, the class that I'm going by, target, modality, the profiles of the components of what they're developing? Does that match what I'm trying to achieve? Can I start a dialogue? So working with their end goal and working backwards, that I need to get a peer group, but I need to start a dialogue with certain companies and filter the right companies. So that's in a nutshell where it begins, and then that hands off to them. I am not involved in that next process. That's proprietary. I'm not in their boardroom meetings. I'm not helping them from that point. But this is I'll get more questions. How do I filter this? What about this? We have an RNA platform technology too. It gets kind of funky, but that's what I got. Nick, do you have things you'd like to add?
Matt, I think this is an excellent introduction to the kinds of data that are available to BCIQ users. You did a really great job of showing both the deal perspective as well as the product pipeline perspective, all the way down to indication and modality. And as you talked about, that data is hard to collect and manage for most individuals. So this is definitely a really good thing for users and viewers to know about. So thank you for doing that. That is going to wrap up this session of Drug Development Disco. Matt, as always, thank you for being my co-host. For the rest of you, we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll have Sophia Lugo of Radar Therapeutics on hand to talk about the importance of monitoring the competitive landscape. We hope to see you then.
Thank you.